But notice, more importantly, the word inherit. And you'll see it in the layout screen even more. What this is indicating is we give you one spot to set your global settings. Your form of the ballot directive will come out, as I'm sure you're used to, and it'll say candidates need to be in 12-point bold font or whatever it is. You can set that in one place. So anytime you enter a candidate, as long as you're using the inherited settings, you always inherit that. The reason I like to open up an issue and talk more about the inherited settings is, of course, we can inherit all of these settings, but if there's any one-offs you need to do, for instance, this emergency levy, the purpose needs to be in bold and in font twice the size. You can certainly do one-offs. Now, I didn't have to set this in 11-point regular font. It automatically did it, but I did want to go ahead and choose part of this issue and make it different. So you can do that as well. And once again, a lot of the inherited things here as well. Headers, exactly what you think they would be. Every paper ballot has some sort of header. It also handles things like your footers, as well as your stubs and things like that, all done in headers. We can do graphics, whether it's board signatures on a particular part of the ballot, or whether it's a county seal or logo. In this case, I've got the ClearBallot logo. And this ballot is actually the ones that we've already used today. It's the identical ballot. This is exactly where I built it. The reason I open up the title header when I'm doing these is I like to show you that will give you the ability to insert a table. So maybe you want to have 5 separate compartments in your header so you can do different things and center things within that compartment. This particular case is a 5-cell compartment to build this header. You don't have to use it, but if it's handy and if it's something you want to use to make your ballot more appealing, you can. Also, the use of macros, we employ those. Don't quote me on this number, but there's something like 40 or 50 different macros that can be used in order to add variable data to any part of your ballot, whether that's precinct and split name at the top of the ballot, whether it is page numbering at the bottom. All of that can be done through a macro. Ballot sets is something we sort of talked about earlier. I think it's worth spending another minute on, though, to make sure. And it is really kind of a hard concept for people that have never seen our software or spent much time in it to understand. But essentially, we give you the ability to create different types of ballots that can be used in the same election. So your standard ballot is 8.5 by 11 in this particular case. But your issues only ballot, where I only have 2 issues in this election, we're able to make it 6 inches long. Potentially save on postage, certainly make it stand out. If your poll workers are grabbing for a ballot, they can tell which is the shorter ballot pretty easily. And kind of the opposite of that issues only, we have the 17-year-old ballot. It sounded like there could be an objection to using this, so I want to be clear. You can certainly still do your 17-year-olds the exact way you do them now. But if you wanted a separate ballot style, you can create it, then just send it to your ballot marking device, and you don't have to have a separate stack of ballots, but it can be scanned just like any other ballot, and then you don't have to deal with it on the back end. And then just as an example, and nobody throw anything at me or tell me we're not allowed to do this, but I've created a large print ballot that in this case is 8.5 by 14 because I'm using a little bit larger font, but maybe you would have a segment of the population that would benefit from having a ballot that had larger print. Maybe you wanted to take them to the nursing homes. You could do something like that. And to that end, we'll show you some of these ballots, and since we just talked about the large print, I can show that to you. So I just set up a ballot set that was longer, and I made those inherited settings larger for this ballot set. I can't remember exactly how much larger I made it, but I could have made it however large I wanted to. Again, it may not be something you would ever even want to do, but just an idea of how you can use ballot sets. I do want to open our standard ballot and show you another thing or two. So if I open our standard ballot, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the stubs that I built for this just to get them out of the way. And I think I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller on the screen so you can see more. I can look at the front or the back, whatever view I want. If I wanted to see both sides, So who designs ballots? I know, anybody else, or is it just, okay. So this is where a lot of our customers might have, the 24-inch monitor or even bigger, and you can see a big version of your ballot. Maybe drag this tab over to that extended view monitor and have one tab open here and one tab open on the other monitor. So think about those, that type of flexibility. This is a WYSIWYG design. Now, if you had a certain ballot that you needed to do something special with, maybe you're straddling because of one ballot style going from a 14 to a 17-inch ballot, and maybe saving a little room on the instructions on that ballot style would help you do that. You can make single changes to a ballot in order to accommodate that. Things like making the footer go all the way across if you want it, dropping this issue down, position to it. I don't know why you might want to do that, but you have the flexibility to. I know when I was programming in Unity several years back, there were times when I had one ballot style that was kind of killing me. I was doing well in the whole election, and then one ballot style, because of a charter amendment, was going to force me to go to a longer ballot or even a second card. We give you the ballot flexibility to take a single ballot and make it work for you to save you that trouble. That make sense? So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to reopen it. Show you something else.
But at the same time, you also still have the option to, like, let's say you want to change the instructions to make them smaller, to have that affect every single ballot.
Absolutely. So, and to that end, that's a great question. So let's say you're looking at your ballot, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to pick a simple option here, but this could be just as easily be instructions or whatever. So let's say I'm looking at for U.S. Senator, and I see the form of the ballot, and you know what? I'm not supposed to have periods here. I can just go back to my main screen, and I'll open up my contests, and I'll open up my Senate editor, and I'll save that. Took my periods out. Now I'll just go back to that tab. Remember, I'm in a browser interface, so I'm going to reload. You can see those changes immediately. And again, I could have globally changed my instructions there. I picked a simple example. But that's how you can easily make changes to everything. And if I were to if I were to go back to ballot sets, as you had asked about global changes, let me open up another ballot style. You're going to see that those periods are gone from that race here as well.
That ties well into just the modern database-driven architecture of our entire system. I think if you kind of understand how it works, you can understand how quickly changes like that can be made and why it kind of works that way. The browser is just pointing into it, so you refresh the browser, and those changes are pulled up immediately.
This main screen of my election, this is where you would do things like, you might open up a brand new election and you have nothing in it yet, but you can import the data. Again, we will work with you in your DIM system or whatever voter registration you might have in the future to build imports that we can take in. And that includes candidates and issues as well. Races, candidates, and issues. I don't know, do you track those in DIMS or not? You do?
We import everything.
Okay, so yeah, we can certainly import those. Certainly doesn't mean there won't be some formatting to do, but it will save you from copying and pasting or even worse, typing issue language in for each one. Also, we have a bevy of reports that you have access to for proofing. You will not use all of these, of course, but you'll find the ones that help you the most. We allow you to view them or export them in a number of different formats and sizes and things like that. So you have access to those.
Including those reports, like let's say for contest names or something like that, do the reports also have the option of including Spanish?
Yes, they will include a second language. Let me do one of those. Let's do this one. That's not good. I need. I'll find one before we I know there's a couple in here that demonstrate that really well. Is that fair? Is that all right? And then if we go back to ballot sets, James probably wants to tie some of this into some of the equipment, so I want to show you at the end when you're all done, you've approved. We have a button here called, actually, let's do something else real quick. This will just take a few seconds. We already showed you that you can look at your accessible device, your HTML ballot on the screen. So keep that in mind. You don't have to get out equipment in order to proof that electronic ballot delivery. You can do it on your screen. Once again, think in terms of larger monitors where you might want to look at that on a separate screen, and then edit it on your main screen.
Can you carry templates forward, like these said?
You can, yeah. So backing up is really, really simple. Do you guys use electionware here?
Mm-hmm.
Has ES&S improved that backing up process on electionware? Because I know in Unity it was,
It's similar.
okay, similar to,
Yeah,
okay.
Unity.
Um,
I don't want to say it, but
Yeah.
it's very similar to what it was.
I got you. So, real quick, let's just do something. Let's restore an election. So think in terms of templates. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to find one. Here is my backup that I have very simply with a couple of button touches created. And I'll open that back up. Of course, it is password protected. Anytime you do that, you can password protect it. And you'll see it run through its processes. And of course on the actual servers as opposed to my laptop,